welcome to Thought for the Week with Chabad in Wimbledon. This week we're going to be celebrating the festival of Shavuot. The Jews left Egypt in the year 2448, and we're now in the year 5768, which means approximately over 3,300 years ago the entire Jewish people stood at the foot of Mount Sinai and received the Decalogue, the Ten Commandments, from the Almighty God. And what an occasion it is to celebrate. The Jews were in great preparation for this event. In fact, beforehand, they said to God, Na'aseh v'nishma. We'll do it and we'll understand it. We're prepared to receive it. And they put the doing before the understanding. They understood that what was going to be given to them was the Torah, God's instruction to mankind. And it was so precious and so valuable, they were ready to do it, even before they had heard it. And Jews today celebrate Shavuot in a most beautiful way. First of all, we deck out the synagogue with flowers and shrubs, as if to reenact the stand at Sinai. We also gather in the synagogues to hear the Ten Commandments being read from the Torah, and it's also a very beautiful custom to celebrate by eating milky foods such as cheesecake and blintzas and other such milky delicacies in honor of the festival. But what I'd like to address today is the following thought taken from a passage in the Talmud in Tractate Chabad. The Talmud says the following: when the Jews stood under the mountain, Kafar aleihem har kegigis, the Almighty uprooted the mountain of Sinai above their heads and held it over their heads like a barrel. And he said, if you accept the Torah, good, and if not, boom, sham tehei kvuraschem, there you will be buried. Now, of course, with such a choice, the Jews, of course, said, well, of course we'll receive it. And the Talmud says that later on in the days of Purim, the Jews re-accepted the Torah, because in those days, with the terrible decree of Haman hanging over their heads, it wasn't such a rosy picture, and yet nevertheless, Jews stood with great self-sacrifice for an entire year, ready to hold on to keep the tenets of their faith. And the question is obvious. If the Jews had already anticipated the stand at Sinai and said, Na'aseh v'nishma, we're ready to do it, we're ready to keep it, we want it, then why was it necessary for God to uproot the mountain, hold it over their heads, and threaten them almost and say that if you don't receive it, there you will be buried? What is the meaning in this cryptic passage of the Talmud? And perhaps the meaning is the following. There are two ways to force somebody to do something. Either you can hold a gun to their head and say, if you don't do it, I'll shoot you. That's one way to force them. No choice, really. There's another way. Just imagine if I put before you a most precious diamond, which was priceless, and I said it's yours for the taking. Would you be forced to take it? Of course. It's free. It's there. It's available. It could be yours. When the Talmud says that God lifted the mountain over them and held it over them like a barrel, what it actually means is that God showed them the brilliance of the Torah. He showed them that this Torah is like a priceless gem that must be taken. They were forced to take it, not because a gun was held to their heads, but because they just simply couldn't refuse something so stunningly attractive and beautiful. Later on in the days of Purim, when it wasn't so attractive, then they re-accepted it. And this is a most beautiful thought that we can go into this year's festival of Shavuot. When we want to celebrate a festival which reenacts the giving of the Torah, then what we need to do is to focus on the beauty of the Torah, to focus on its stunning nature, the fact that it unites families, it unites communities. It takes the physical world, embraces it, lifts it up, permeates it with spirituality, gives it meaningful direction and purpose. And when God came down on Mount Sinai and Moses ascended the mountain, There was that fusion of heaven and earth, of body and soul, of material and spiritual, so that we can bring heaven down to earth and make a dwelling place for the divine here on this earth. And the way we must do it is in a beautiful way. We must show ourselves, our families, our communities, the beauty of the Torah, the beauty of a Shabbat, the beauty of the mitzvot, the beauty of our faith. Let us celebrate in that manner. Let's force ourselves to see the other side of the coin, how absolutely beautiful Torah is. I wish you Kabbalat HaTorah, to receive the Torah, b'simcha, with joy, or b'pnimiut, and with inner dimension. Chag Sameach.